All right, we can get started. Welcome to People Power Hour. Again, my name's Terrell McKinney, running for state legislature in District 11. Tonight, have a special guest, Miss Cara Eastman, who's running for Congress. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thanks for having. Thanks for joining. How's your day been?
It's been good. Really good day.
That's good.
The weather's awful, but it's a good day.
Yeah. Yep. So, for those who, I'm pretty sure everybody's seen your face. I guess I was just why did you? I guess my first question is what originally made you decide to run for Congress?
Well, and people may have heard this on TV, but in 2016, my mom, who and growing up it was just me and my mom. So my mom was diagnosed with cancer for the fifth time, and gosh, I mean this was across her lifetime and mine, and prescribed a $2,500 pill that she couldn't afford to take, and it really rattled my family, and it's still kind of hard to believe that a pill in the United States of America could cost that much.
Right.
So it sent me down this path of exploring like, well, how this happens, how do we stop this? Like, how do we change the system? How can somebody like my mom, a woman who has Medicare, dying of cancer, be prescribed such an expensive pill? And so ultimately, I made the decision to run for Congress because I want to fix our broken healthcare system.
That's good. Yes, I know. I love what my grandmother died from cancer, so it's I definitely that's serious. After the 2016 election, what in you made you want to continue to keep pushing for this seat?
Well, that was kind of the breaking point, right? So this was something I was considering. Then Donald Trump gets elected, and I remember even that morning, my daughter was crying in her bed, saying, "How what do we do now? How could this have even happened?" Which is a great question, and it seemed at that point that not only did I want to run because of our healthcare system, but I've been working in nonprofit organizations for over 20 years, locally at Omaha Healthy Kids Alliance for 12 years. And there was this potential for a lot of rollbacks in protections and progress that I had been working on. So rollbacks in environmental protections and appointing people to positions who didn't deserve the positions. And we saw that come to fruition with having the head of HUD be a surgeon who had no business running HUD, having the EPA, run by somebody who wants to get rid of the EPA. So I decided instead of sitting on the fence, I could jump off and throw my hat in the ring.
That's good. How has that been for your family? That because I'm running and I'm like, man, like I've been running for a year. I couldn't imagine, still doing it for as long as you have. How's that been for your family?
I'm incredibly lucky. I have a very supportive husband. We've been together for 30 years, and he's a historian and an expert in politics, and so he loves this, and he's a big part of the campaign and has always been with me. And our daughter's actually been great too. It was funny when I first told her that I was thinking about running, she said, "Oh gosh, that'll be great. We'll be famous." And I said, "Yeah, name a member of Congress." And at the time, she couldn't. She's 19 now. She can name a lot of them, but she's also been incredibly supportive, and I always thought that she'd get bored of this, or she's heard me say the same things over and over again, or she'd be embarrassed. And she's actually hasn't been. I think she's actually been inspired, and she sees that we can do this with integrity. One of the things I promised her was that I would just always be myself, and I've kept that promise throughout the campaign.
That's good. That's big. Always make sure you stay true to yourself throughout the process. What type of groundwork have you been laying from then to now?
A lot. So, when we started the campaign in 2017, our first idea was that we were going to knock as many doors as possible. So through the 2018 election, we knocked 200,000 doors in the district. And the district is Omaha and Douglas County, and then a part of Sarpy County. So it's a lot of doors to knock. But we felt like that was the way that we actually bring electoral politics back to the people. And we continue that for this 2020 election when we could knock doors safely. And so we did that. But this has always been a grassroots ground movement about connecting with people, talking to them, having difficult conversations, and making sure that the voters know who I am and what I stand for.
How has COVID affected your campaign?
Quite a lot. I mean, we stopped knocking doors in March because it was deemed that it was no longer safe, and we immediately had to reconfigure where we were able to invest in the technology to be able to make a lot of phone calls. So we've really been focusing on phone banking, postcard writing, digital advertising on TV and mail, and I call a lot of people. I spend a lot of time on the phone calling undecided voters or talking to voters in the district who just want somebody who's actually going to talk to them and listen to their issues.
That's good. What are some of the issues are you guys hearing on the phone?
Right now, COVID comes up a lot, especially for people who've lost their jobs, are afraid that they're going to get evicted because they can't make rent, talking to landlords who don't know what to do about tenants who can't make rent, a lot of small business owners who are really afraid for their future, and then also people who are just feel like there isn't a plan. And we've seen that in Nebraska, unfortunately, with the current leadership at many levels, that it's great that the city council had did the right thing in issue, making sure we had a mask mandate, but around the state that hasn't happened. The enforcement's been lax, and people are scared. People are really scared about the winter and what this is going to mean. And I'm already hearing these conversations of like what a socially distanced or a virtual Thanksgiving looks like, which is heartbreaking, right?
Right. It's definitely been a trying situation. I know for me, I guess the good thing for me is that I'm kind of savvy with technology, and I use social media. So, but it was tough because a part of my plan for the primary was to be out knocking doors and having face-to-face conversations. But through the summer, I just kind of adjusted to it, and when I could get out, I get out and try to be as safe as possible. But it's definitely I didn't imagine this a year ago. Like, campaigning now, I'm thinking I'll be out walking miles every day. Now it's in a house on my phone or laptop just working. But it's been good. I think it's been a great experience. I think it has forced us all to look at ourselves and reevaluate what we're doing and just thinking about how can we be better as individuals, not even just our campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
What Speaking of COVID, what are some things that you think we're gonna have to look at and work on whenever this is post COVID, or how to get through a better day for everyone?
Well, so I spent the majority of my career in Omaha working in North and South Omaha. Mm-hmm. And what I've seen firsthand is that there are neighborhoods that are blighted, that have traditionally been ignored by politicians. And on the federal level, they show up for ribbon cuttings or parades. But when it comes to actually getting stuff done in these neighborhoods that need it so much, they've been ignored. And there's a historic element to this. There's certainly systemic racism that's included in all of this. But the problem is politicians right now are often looking out for the very wealthy and the large corporations first. And so my concern is for these blighted neighborhoods, what happens post-pandemic? Who's going to be there for them? And who's going to say, these are the neighborhoods that we need to prioritize first? And that is one of the reasons why I am saying to people, elect me, elect Joe Biden. We will prioritize these neighborhoods first. And this is near and dear to my heart because at Omaha Healthy Kids, these are the neighborhoods, these are the homes that we worked in, these are the families that we worked with, and they deserve somebody to actually stand up and fight for them.
Right. I know for my district in like North Omaha, the biggest issue, the primary issue is economics and trying to figure out ways to, boost economic change in this community. For years, it has, in my opinion, been neglected. It looks worse year after year. And what I always say is, I want individuals in office that are going to listen to the people and also going to get in office and actually fight for the change that we need. Because I don't want to be 60 years old and still looking at the same thing in my community. I think that speaks to failure. Not to say I will be a failure. Anybody that's been in office is a failure, but economic change has to happen. What are your plans, to address economic change, not only in North Omaha, but there are small towns in rural Nebraska as well that are struggling. What are your plans for economic?
So we actually have an equity plan that was developed and that is on our website that talks exactly about this. That because people would ask me, what are you going to do for the district? So that includes investments in public transportation, and we need to do that nationwide. But that's something in particular in North Omaha that we see, that without access to public transportation, it's difficult for people to get to work. It's difficult for people to get to school, and we need to change that. We also need investments in housing. I worked for 12 years in housing and saw just some of the unbelievable living conditions that people are either put in a rental situation, or when people are living in poverty or just sometimes don't have access to wealth, it's difficult to keep your home up. It's difficult to do the things in a home that you need to do to keep it safe, healthy. And we still have 84,000 homes built before 1978, the year lead-based paint was banned. So we still have children that are being poisoned inside their homes as babies, and then they're expected to graduate or just be productive in life when lead is a neurotoxin that causes IQ deficits, behavioral problems later, in criminal behavior later in life. So I'm a huge advocate for green, safe, and healthy homes, which would actually create a green workforce, great paying unionized jobs, everything locally produced. And we've seen some of these pieces before in North Omaha. There used to be a window manufacturing company in North Omaha that worked with OHA. We need to look at solutions like that so that people have great paying jobs. We also need to help boost the small business community, making sure that entrepreneurs get the resources they need, connecting people to Metropolitan Community College to make sure that they have quality education that they can get access to, which is why I support debt-free education. And there's so much more that we could be doing to make sure that people have livable wages, which is why I support raising the federal minimum wage to at least $15 an hour.
I'm with you on that. Speaking of education, I know for this district, education is not been the best, and my campaign came up with an education plan, but I'm always thinking of ways to, improve the public school system here in our state, because I know it's good for some kids in some areas of the city, but for this area, it's not the best. And I'm always thinking, how can we make it equitable so all kids are getting a quality education and it doesn't depend on your zip code?
That's exactly right. And that's part of the problem, is that public schools are funded through property taxes in part. And when property values are lower and we don't have the political will to change that, that creates a problem. When we have leadership at the from the governor to people in the state legislature where the first thing they think of when we need to make budget cuts are cutting investments in public education, or they're trying to create charter schools in Nebraska, which we don't need, which would divert funding away from public education. This is a problem. And that's one of the things I saw as a board member of Metropolitan Community College was, as the state was always considering cutting funding, we would have to look at, do we raise tuition? Do we, use our property tax levy? Like, what do we have to do here to be able to afford to have high quality, affordable education in our community? We absolutely need to replace Betsy DeVos as the education secretary. This is somebody who does not believe in public education. We need to pay teachers really well. And I think during the pandemic, I've had a number of parents reach out to me and say, wow, I really see that we how valuable teachers are now that I'm, put in a position that I never expected to be, where I'm basically homeschooling my kids, and which is an incredible task. But there's just a number of ways where we need solid investments in public education. This should be priority one in the United States of America. This is how we compete in a global economy and set our young people up for success.
I agree, because you look across the globe and you see how advanced kids in other nations are, and it's like, why can't, if we're the best nation in the world, why can't we make sure that all our kids are set up for success? This year has been super trying for everyone, and over the summer, there was a lot of social unrest because of the death of George Floyd, and then you had James Gerlach's death. How have you been navigating those waters, and what do you think we need to do to to start really making real change in the area of social injustice?
Well, I've spent my career in social work and nonprofit organizations fighting for racial, social, and environmental justice. And I think first and foremost, we need politicians across the board to acknowledge that there is systemic racism in our institutions, within our government, and elsewhere. And if you don't have somebody in an elected office who can at least acknowledge that, there's a problem, because it's clear that there is. I'm really proud to have been endorsed by over 50 Black leaders from Omaha, including yourself. And together we created a racial justice plan that is also on our website. And this is how we start to make actual changes from within. We need evidence-based solutions in order to actually change things. This isn't a problem that gets fixed by just throwing some money at it or just trying out. Like we need to actually thoughtfully move forward with this, because it's too important. There are too many lives that are at stake. And my plan to address this is one, acknowledging that I should not be the leader in this, that there are people of color who need to be in leadership positions in order to move this forward, but that I can have a seat at that table, and I can help convene people, because we need law enforcement at the table, but we also need activists. We need mental health practitioners. We need health practitioners. We need social workers. We need everybody to come together and say, in Omaha, we are not going to tolerate racism, and that it's not just okay to not be racist. Like, we have to be anti-racist and start calling things out when we see them.
Yeah, I agree. I think the more we're able to have open and honest conversations about what's going on, the better off we'll be. I don't think it's good for, people to sit in silos and have an opinion and then never address it, or when they come in front of individuals, it's always a bunch of bickering and nobody's ever getting to solutions. So I agree with you on that. The next is healthcare. I know healthcare is big for a lot of Americans, and especially during a pandemic. What changes to the healthcare system do you think we need to see in our country?
A lot. and my priority immediately is lowering prescription costs, because I don't want anybody to have to go through what my mom did. But there's a bill in Congress that I particularly like, because I've had now 4 years to study it, talk to experts, talk to economists, and learn enough about the current healthcare system where we can see that it's broken and we need change. That bill is called HR 1384. It's the Medicare for All Act. And what it does is eliminate the ridiculous copays, premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket costs that people pay. Right now, the average American is paying between $6,000 and $12,000 a year in healthcare costs. And another thing we've seen in the pandemic is that when you couple employment with healthcare, it can be dangerous, because if you lose your job, you lose your healthcare. But it also creates a situation where if you want to change jobs, it's challenging for people. If you want to start your own business, it's often challenging for people. It's hard for small business owners to provide healthcare to their employees. It costs a lot of money. And as a small bonus, I used to run a nonprofit, right? Every year, the insurance broker would come back to us and say, premiums are going up. You're going to have to decide, do you want to raise the deductible? Do you want to provide lesser of a quality plan? I mean, these are tough decisions that I would have to make as the person going out and raising that money. And frankly, most funders don't want to fund that. They want to fund the stuff that you're doing at the nonprofit. So our system is broken. It is governed by corporate greed. It is governed by a for-profit healthcare system that benefits from people being sick, and it doesn't focus on prevention. And so I believe that we need an expanded healthcare system, and I am ready to go to Congress and to work with Joe Biden to fix our broken healthcare system. I'm not ideological about this. I just believe that healthcare is a human right.
We're under 2 weeks away from the election. What do you have planned from now until then to make sure that voters are seeing your face and are getting to either they're mailing their ballots in or they're going to the polls on election day and voting for you?
This is how we're spending our time right now, making phone calls, doing a lot of phone banking. I think yesterday we made about 25,000 calls in the district. We're putting stuff out on social media, educating people about the importance of voting early and safely, having events, having yard sign events around the district, and just doing as much as we can to get out the vote, because there are a number of people who have not necessarily voted before, that we've got a lot of younger people that are voting for the first time. And we just want to make sure that we're letting them know the importance of this election and how important their vote is. I mean, I ran in 2018. I came up short by just 1.9%. That's 4,945 votes. So when people say that they feel like their vote doesn't matter or that their voice doesn't count, I'm here to tell you, your vote matters. And with me, your voice will count, because I want to represent you. One of the clear differences between myself and my opponent is I don't take corporate PAC money in my campaign. He does. Because I don't think that politicians should be bought and sold by corporations. I believe that they should represent the people over their party or over special interests.
That's good. What have you been doing specifically to target younger voters? Because I know that's always the conversation is younger voters don't vote, they don't listen. So what have you been doing that you think has been working?
My field director, Fatima, has had 2 organizing academies last summer and this summer, where she has trained 60 young people, high school and college students, as organizers. They now are out there recruiting people to get involved in the campaign, to volunteer, and to vote. And we've seen this ripple effect where a lot more younger people are getting engaged. They've been going out to colleges, they've been talking to people at high schools, and talking to their own networks. And through this relational organizing approach, we're seeing a lot more momentum. And then also just targeting on social media and making sure that we're engaging with people that way as well.
Okay. If a young person wants to get involved with your campaign, how do they get in contact with your staff?
Our website is eastmanforcongress.com. We're easy to find on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at Cara for Congress, and then on Facebook at Eastman for Congress. And we would welcome the help right now. We need as many people out there phone banking, getting their own friends to make sure they go to the polls or that they turn their ballots in at the Election Commission. We've just 12 days left. We've just got to get everybody out there voting and knowing that there are people now running to represent them who are going to do things a little different.
You have a debate coming up, don't you?
We've had 4 debates already, so we are done with debates.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that.
That's okay. Joe Biden and Donald Trump have a debate coming up.
Yeah, I know, tonight. What are you expecting from that?
Oh, that's a great question. What am I expecting from it? Hopefully a little bit of civility, and maybe that Donald Trump actually lets Joe Biden speak. They're going to shut their mics off, so that should be interesting. But look, I think people know who Joe Biden is, and they know now who Donald Trump is. And we've had 4 years. We've had 4 years to give Donald J. Trump and Donald J. Bacon a shot. Mm-hmm. And they just have not been good for this country. They have rolled back environmental protections, Don Bacon voted with Trump to take away health care, and voted for a tax cut to the very, very wealthy in this country, where 83% of the benefit of that tax cut goes to the top 1% of this country. We have seen that the swamp has not been drained. The swamp is more populated than ever. And it is time for us to just get out and show our community, show our country that we are more united than people think, and that we're ready for change, for very positive change.
And before we get out of here, I know we got a little time left. Can you tell the voters why they should vote for you over Don?
Don Bacon has voted 93% of the time with Donald Trump. He uses the word bipartisan a lot, but that is not bipartisanship. That is putting a president and a party over the needs of people in this district. He has voted against the Violence Against Women Act. He voted against the Voting Rights Act. He voted against the Justice and Policing Act. This is not somebody who represents this district. And in particular, he does not represent North Omaha. So it is time to elect somebody who wants to do things differently, somebody who wants to actually represent people. We today put out a plan called Doing Politics Differently, where I have committed to having an accessible office, where I've committed to doing open town halls and committed to actually answering people's questions and helping them. I'm a social worker by trade. I know how to engage with people, and our office will be a constituent service office where people will be able to actually get the help that they need, because Nebraskans and people in the second district deserve a voice. And I am pledging to be that voice for people and make sure that we are prioritizing the needs of people in this district, the needs of kids in the district, the needs of single moms in this district, the needs of working people in this district over special interests and large corporations and the very wealthy, who frankly have plenty of voices right now in Congress.
Thank you. And you definitely got my support and my vote. Anybody that asks me, like, who should I Cara? I don't agree with Don Bacon. My interactions with him haven't been the best. So, and I also don't think he has the best interests at heart for my community. So, you got my support. I definitely wish you all the best in this next week and a half or whatever it is. I know you're going to be busy. I'm going to be busy, but just make sure, take some car time and make sure you staying safe and, enjoying it as well, because I think sometimes you get caught up in the moment and just working, and you don't take time to enjoy it. So I would say that too.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. There have been some things that have happened over the last few months where I've actually purposely stopped and said, wait a second, I just got endorsed by Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Barack Obama. These are like where Jim Clyburn did an event for me, where I'm going to be on a podcast tomorrow with Michael Moore. Like, these are incredible things that I've had the opportunity to experience. So, and likewise for you, take care of yourself, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you again next week. We'll have Senator Justin Wayne on. Have a good night.